Greetings, dear guests. I'm sorry for the 5 minutes delay. The translation might be unavailable at the moment, but it will be in place soon. Just before we start our session, I have some information to share with you. So the QR code on your badges links to the official Telegram channel of Astana International Financial Center, so you can stay updated on all the latest information regarding this conference. You have login and password to Wi-Fi, press releases, photos. So there will be also text broadcasts from the panel session on the Telegram channel. Also, you can find all the information about Astana Finance Days in the special application, event.rocks, a platform for communicating and connecting with conference participants. So you can download it by QR code from this screen. Where's the screen? So you can see. Briefly about fire safety. For your safety in case of a fire, kindly note that the emergency exits can be found in the mini atrium between the block C31, this one, and the next C32, and in the zone after the elevators. Okay, that's it. That's done. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for your time. I think it's very kind from your side, because I'm sure that all you are looking forward for a nice evening, and it's pretty hard to have a last session. But still, we have a very important and engaging topic to explore. Let me welcome you to the panel session, Tokenizing the Future, the Evolution of Fund Structures, in which we are going to explore a pretty unique partnership between three very interesting and distinct financial firms: SkyBridge Invest, Lazard, and Bitfinex. So very interesting collaboration, and I'm very happy to present our panelists today. Zamira Sundetova, Matthias Kruse, and Akshu Campbell-Holt. Zamira Sundetova, she is an investment professional with more than 15 years of experience on the market. Now she holds the position of member of the management board of SkyBridge Invest. At the same time, she's the head of SkyBridge Invest branch in the AIFC. So Matthias Kruse is a managing director at Lazard Asset Management, LLC, and responsible for sales and client service at Lazard Asset Management Deutschland. He began working in the investment sector back to 1989, and he joined Lazard in 1999. So Akshu Campbell-Holt is vice president of Bitfinex Securities, AIFC, which is a STO exchange licensed by AIFC, and she spent 6 brilliant years in the AIFC, working with the AIFC. So she holds different positions in the AIFC bodies, including AIFC Authority, including Astana Financial Services Authority, and Astana International Exchange. So prior to that, she worked in Qatar for Qatar Financial Center for more than 10 years. So that's our distinguished guest today. Let me start with one question to Zamira. So I just do like the idea how the pure thought and discussion can evolve into the investment product. Can you be our guide in this journey?
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for your interest. It's good to see so many people interested in this topic in our announcement. And before I start, I would like to make a little disclaimer. Everything that we will be talking about today is not a financial promotion. It's not an advertisement in any kind. It's just our joint intention to set up a fund of funds here today in cooperation with such prominent player, global player such as Lazard. And in this project, we heavily rely on the platform of Bitfinex Securities in terms of their capability of tokenization. So this is from my side. And the whole idea started a little more than 1 year ago when we were introduced by AFSA to Lazard Asset Management. We started our discussion, and finally, after a number of calls and meetings, the simple idea of distribution of funds of Lazard has many different broad spectrum of funds into Kazakhstan, and they were ready to share their strong expertise in asset management. So the idea suddenly evolved into the setting up a full-fledged fund of funds here in the AIFC under AFSA's support and supervision. What I would like to say, fund of funds is a unique vehicle, and it's an opportunity to combine and aggregate multiple strategies, multiple asset classes within one portfolio. And the simple basis is that by diversification, we can get a higher return or minimize the risk depending on our needs. As you may know, diversification is the basic concept for effective portfolio management, but I'm pretty much sure that not many of you know that this idea was invented more than 70 years ago by a well-known American economist, Harry Markowitz, and I truly look up to him. He even won a Nobel Prize for the idea of simple wisdom, not putting all eggs in one basket. And that's what we are trying to do in cooperation with Lazard Asset Management. I would like to tell that after the setting up a fund here, we will tokenize its units on Bitfinex platform. And this will give us an opportunity to bolster assets under management by getting an access to local crypto digital asset investors. And Akshu will tell more about the process, about the advantages and technology side. What I would like to say, I would like to thank Matija, thanks Akshu and Irka Galis-Yerikovic for this opportunity. I think this project will be unique not only for Kazakhstan, but for CIS countries. And I'm pretty much sure that not even in some developed countries we have the same approach and we can do the same things. It became available also because of AFSA regulation and creation here a legislative basis for a circulation of digital assets in the AIFC, apart from mainland of Kazakhstan. So I wish all of us success in this journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Zamira. A very promising project indeed. One disclaimer from a regulator. It was mentioned by Zamira that AFSA introduced SkyBridge Invest to Lazard, which is true, but SkyBridge Invest wasn't the only fund manager which was introduced to the Lazard. So, and having in mind the experience of Lazard with more than 200 years on a leading roles in the financial industry, I think Matthias can explain us what Lazard is looking for in this collaboration, in the AIFC, in the innovations. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your participation and the invitation to this conference. I would like to start with a small story because you mentioned that I'm really old, that Lazard is really old, and I have told my kids, they are between 22 and 32, that I'm part of a panel regarding tokenization. And the answer was, you are at least in the second wave of your midlife crisis. Sorry for the first explanation. The simple idea, what we have created together with the AFSA and Samira SkyBridge, was easy, and I will explain the business model of Lazard, and then you have an impression why I believe this is a terrific way, also including the support of using tokens. Lazard is doing business as a financial advisor. This is M&A and restructuring, and as asset manager. We are a brand name, old-fashioned, as mentioned. We have more than 250 billion assets under management around the globe. We are very global. And I think the key success factors of us are, in one hand, performance, risk-adjusted, as Samira mentioned. Secondly, that we try to near to clients. We are a solution provider. We are relationship manager. We are not a simple sales rep. We try to deliver trusted advice. And the third success factor, also really important, is to be global. What does it mean? Capital markets are global, so the research, the analysis is always global. A European company is in competition with a US and the Asian companies, so the research is always global. But the local requirements, the local mentalities are totally different. So the requirements from the authority, like the AFSA, or in Germany from the BaFin, or in the United States, are sometimes really different. And also in the European Union, you have a lot of differentiations. So we try to find always local solutions. What does it mean? We are never doing B2C client business, we are doing B2B business. We are working together with local staff or local cooperation partners. Because a good example is, I'm a German, but I can't successfully sales in Austria. They have the same language, but different regulatory requirements, different mentalities. So local staff is always important. And after a long conversation with the AFSA, we discussed we need a local flavor. And that was a reason why we have discussed with Samira and SkyBridge and have identified that we have a business model what is not totally different. The mindset is the same. So we can lift a lot of synergies out of the project. And as I mentioned before, the regulatory environment is also very complicated. Anti-money laundering, know your client process, different settlement rules around the globe. So it is sometimes a nightmare. And to solve all these issues, I think tokenization could be an advantage. But you will explain that probably later better than me, because I'm old-fashioned, as I mentioned. But I think that is the idea behind this collaboration. And I think, in one hand, is performance important, but the product itself is sometimes a commodity. You have always solutions around the world. And if you find good quality of risk risk-adjusted returns, plus a vehicle which is easy, dealable, sellable, manageable. So I think this is a win-win-win situation. A win situation for SkyBridge, a win situation for Bitfinex, a win situation for Lazard, plus a win situation for the investors. And that is the reason or the secret behind this, in my point of view, terrific idea.
Thank you, Matthias. And my next question will be to you, Akshu. What is the role of Bitfinex Securities and technology in the project?
Yeah, thanks, Yerkali. I think for the audience, I mean, we're a relatively young organization, speaking of age, and so maybe a bit of background on what we do at Bitfinex Securities. So it is a digital asset issuance and trading platform. So we issue and trade security tokens. And we're licensed in AIFC. And I think we're one of a handful of such entities around the world. Probably the only one that's regulated in 2 jurisdictions. And it's really great to see our other regulator from El Salvador also participating here. So we are regulated in 2 jurisdictions and probably the only one. So Bitfinex Securities was established by leveraging the technological advantages of the digital asset industry and blockchain capabilities to really have an innovative approach to capital markets. And what do I mean by that? So the advantages are, so first of all, it minimizes the need for intermediaries, and therefore it lowers the cost, improves efficiency, and brings, I think, issuers closer to investors. There are other advantages like instant settlement, 24/7, 365 days trading. It also provides, I think, more control to investors on their own assets through the self-custody capabilities that we have in the platform, as well as peer-to-peer trading amongst our whitelisted clients as well. So these are some of the benefits and the advantages, and to really give some examples of how it can be it is an innovative approach to capital markets. And I think we are heavily invested in the AIFC particularly. We have a dedicated office here. I mean, for most of you that might seem a bit, it's not a big deal, but I think for an organization like us, for the group that largely works remotely, we have a physical presence in very, very few locations, and AIFC in Kazakhstan is one of them, and I think that is our sign of commitment. And also, I think we're also heavily engaged with AFSA in the recent regulatory framework that was set up for STOs. We were heavily engaged in that, and I really want to commend AFSA's forward-looking policies yet within the regulatory norms. I think that they've created a really an enabling platform here within the AIFC for even something like this to be possible. It's even within the regulatory framework, I think it's quite innovative, and I want to thank AFSA for being so open to that. And we particularly like the STO framework here because there is no, the regime treats both conventional securities and security tokens it's literally the same. So we particularly like that. And what that's also allowed us to do is we have an MOU with AIX as well. So there are potential, we're working on potential cross-listings as well. So I just wanted to set that background on how AIFC has really provided those enabling conditions, and AFSA's regulatory framework has provided that the enabling conditions for this to be possible. Now, a bit of the project itself, I think in summary, it's a lot of back and forth, as you might imagine in a pilot project. It's a lot of back and forth, and I want to thank our colleagues here and their teams for being so patient through that. But what I think has opened the door to really furthering that innovation within capital markets and also a testament, I think, to all of our commitments to bringing high-quality investment opportunities. And also for us at Bitfinex Securities, and I'm sure SkyBridge and Lazard share this as well, for us it's a testament to our commitment to bringing home to Kazakhstan some sophisticated products such as the credible Lazard funds. And I think from the investor point of view, I think it will gain a lot of interest, especially I believe it's very timely in that institutional investors are now increasing their asset allocation into tokenized securities. And in the future, I think we're going to see more of that. And I believe that this is a very timely project, maybe a bit painful with our back and forth on getting the pilot. But I think once we have this streamlined, there's also a potential to roll this out as an ongoing issuance program, because we've done that with we had our first tokenized bond issuance last year with Micro Capital issuing that. And what that's done this year, we've rolled into an ongoing monthly issuance program of that. And also thanks to AFSA for allowing that to happen as well within such tight timeframes, because it is a monthly issuance program, so it is quite cumbersome for AFSA, and I want to commend their work on that. So yeah, I think with this project as well, I think there's potential for a similar once we get through the pilot. And I'm really excited for the rest of the year, including this project. I think together we'll have many firsts, and I think I'm looking forward to that, and I think I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Akshu. From the point of view of regulator, it's one of the first project of the kind in the AIFC, and we see our role as a promoter of financial innovations. First of all, it's in mandate of the AIFC to promote innovations on the financial sector, and realizing that mandate for last 2 years, we have done a lot. First of all, it's regulations in regards to digital assets, and in this case, exact case, we are pretty proud of our job, which was done after the public consultations and consultations with the market when we developed the STO framework. And but the beauty of a project, as I see it, it's the evolution of pure idea to something tangible, and finally to the innovative financial or investment product. So that's my remarks to the project. And I think there must be a lot of questions from the audience. So you are free to address your questions, your comments to all of our panelists. So you are more than welcome to do so.
My name is Yerjan. I'm from Provident Fiduciary, and I have 2 questions to Akshu. First is, what is the standard description or portrait of the investor at Bitfinex Securities, a professional investor? Is it a legal entity or mostly natural person? Sorry.
Yeah, it's probably both. So not probably, it can be both. So it can be a corporate or individual, as long as they fulfill the requirements. And they have to go through the KYC and the onboarding process. That is also the work that we've done with AFSA to really extend the accredited investors and include professional investors. So there will be a minimum investment size of 100,000 US dollars, subject to the issuer's requirements as well. But I think to qualify as a professional investor, I think there are certain requirements that one has to fulfill and go through the KYC, but it can be both corporate or individual.
And also, if for example, AIFC investment fund will decide to allocate its shares at Bitfinex Securities through tokenization, how this process will take place? Will Bitfinex Securities buy out the shares and then allocate the tokens, or it will be a new structure created which will issue the tokens? Or maybe there is another way?
I don't think, I mean, it will have to look at it carefully by a case-by-case basis, but the buyout is not likely, not a likely option that Bitfinex Securities will perform. We're a trading platform, so I think that it will be a case of issuances, and I don't think that it will be the route of a buyout of shares. But maybe there is an option of having a trust that is set up where shares could be allocated or transferred, or the ownership of the share units could be transferred to a trust, and then that could then be tokenized onto our onto Bitfinex Securities platform. That probably would be a likely route, but not a buyout. If that answers your question.
Any questions? Please use this opportunity.
Just a clarification, just in terms of understanding the framework. Let us suppose that there is an investor, and that investor wants to make a partial investment and wants to set up a hotel in Astana. And that person wants to raise finance. So what that person is going to do is, that person will have to go through the process of issuance, has to tokenize that real estate. And let's say the value of that real estate is $2 million. So he's going to tokenize that, and let's say and there will be a software and additional things that will be used in that process. And then those tokens that are issued, then we have to appoint, I understand, a fund manager or somebody who is authorized person in AFSA, who has the license in this jurisdiction to take note of, to handle those tokens. So those tokens can then be brought to your platform, securitized therein, and then sold to the public. Is this something that this platform would do?
Yeah, it's effectively an exchange that would issue any capital. It can be raised as equity, debt, or funds, as we were talking now. So in your example, the short answer is yes, but I think the structure that you described potentially may not require all those steps. It could probably be more straightforward. So the value of that real estate that needs to be, or whatever the value of the capital that is intended to be raised, so that would be then, those shares, the units of those shares will be tokenized. There is issuers are free to use different tokenization platforms, but we do work with one already. So as our issuances so far have been tokenized through that entity. So it's a very simple tokenization process. And then those tokens will then be issued on our platform.
Afternoon. So the question, rather than it might sound like a client acquisition thing. It's more about the fundamentals. So like you, Matthias, said, for example, speaking German, both, Austria and Germany, it doesn't mean that you can successfully, act there as a businessman, as a salesperson to propose certain things. And that is why the main thing I want to ask, for example, starting from tokenizing and going to classical funds, typical things. Here in Kazakhstan, CIS region, Asian markets, we are more about not disclosing too much of our own wealth. That's, this thing happening, in many places, but here in particular. So how do you approach this in terms of offering the services? For example, there is a high net worth, ultra high net worth individual who wants to do this, but he knows nothing. He's cautious because, again, it might be public, and this might also cover some AFSA's work, like how the regulator might offer assistance to help the person. He's completely clean, all compliant, all good, but it's about the fundamentals of the mentality, of the local mentality of not understanding and not willing to go through these processes. So how to onboard them based on their mentality and their customs, let's say.
Yeah, a good question, and probably I should start with explaining as a company who deals with global clients. And you are totally right that every client is different. And money and wealth is a special thing. I would never work together with somebody without trust in this company, in this firm, and I need a stable structure. And if I'm in front of, let's say, a family office of a very rich family, they would never tell me how much money they manage. But they expect from us a trusted advice regarding the investment vehicle, what is delivering outstanding performance. To trust in something means in a transparent vehicle so that you can expect a performance pattern, for example, that you can explain what funds are behind this vehicle and what style have these funds, and so you can expect out of the historical performance also an expectation for the future. Transparency is, in my point of view, really important. And the last thing is, if you then have convinced your potential investor, this could be a good vehicle, and if then the process of dealing with this vehicle is too complicated, you should open too much accounts, you should deliver hundreds of identifications, and a story for that is, I'm since 5 years at Lazard, responsible for Europe, and especially for the German-speaking area. My boss, the CEO of the firm, is located in the United States, and every 4 years he asked me, what is your hardest hurdle to grow? And I'm always telling him, my colleague, Christoph, because he is responsible for compliance. So this is a good description about, sorry for that, for the regulatory disaster. And therefore, I think, in one hand, you should be transparent, you should deliver outstanding performance, but also you should have a vehicle which is easy to handle. And this is sometimes a real nightmare. I could discuss this with you with hundreds of stories, but this is time-consuming a lot, so it makes no sense. But this is the secret behind the idea. The local flavor plus the technical background makes sense to create a solution to investors.
Good evening, and thank you very much for the invitation and hosting me. I bring you greetings from the country of El Salvador. It's a Central American country. We're also known as Bitcoin country because Bitcoin is a legal currency. Wanted to first thank all the speakers. It's fantastic what you guys are doing. And wanted to, based on the questions that I'm hearing, I'm the national regulator for digital assets in El Salvador. So I look after pretty much financial regulation for all digital assets. And Bitfinex is a company also regulated in our country. Given that our experience with digital assets is probably the most immersed in the world, because Bitcoin is a digital asset and it's our national currency. We look at this from a different perspective, and I wanted to maybe just start the conversation and shed some light on some of the information that we heard based on our experience or knowledge and expectations of what this technology can do for our countrymen, for our people in El Salvador. And I'll start off by talking about a platform from the United States that democratized access to financial products to the everyday person, and that's the Robinhood application. Because of this application in the United States, the average citizen was able to interact and buy financial products that were only previously available to sophisticated investors or people that understood the stock market. From my perspective and in my relationship of what I've seen of products such as the one that's been presented, I think the greatest value is the democratization of access to all of us of products that would never be to or reach. We have here Lazard. I mean, it's a gigantic management fund that now even, and again, I'm going to probably ask for the conversation from this side, because in my country, my vision for adopting tokenization or creating regulation specifically for tokenization is to have the dream that even the average citizen that makes $400 a month can access very useful investment vehicles financed by a company that has $250 billion under management. Instead, in the past, they only had access to a lot of scams and a lot of very not high-paying products. So from my perspective, what I see the value of tokenization is that it is opening up a market that in the past it didn't really exist. In the example that I said, it's Robinhood. If you look at the amount of access to financial products that created, this is the outcome that we expect to see in El Salvador, and I would imagine it'd be the same here in Astana. So if you guys can share some information on that, would be appreciated.
I totally agree with what you said, and as our name stands, SkyBridge, we are building a bridge between conventional asset management world. On one hand, we have Lazard, the esteemed asset manager, with a world of digital asset. And by starting tokenization of real-world assets, we are, as a financial firm, we start with securities, simple equity, bonds, etc. But the next steps would be tokenization of commodities, tokenization of other different, like real estate assets. So many thanks for your insights, and we are happy to have you here today.
And thank you for the question, and I'd like to just make some inputs to that as a regulator. But as I already mentioned, we are promoting innovations in new financial products and services, and there are like two broad and conceptual view on the digital assets from my side, and Maybe it's my professional and individual point of view, but I think it's pretty rational one. First of all, when we are talking about the digital assets, there are like technology involved, which gives new opportunities for even traditional markets. I mean, first of all, financial markets, but later on commodities markets will be involved. And what it gives, at least fragmentation. So tokenization can make every investment available because of fragmentation features, 24/7, and instant settlements. So I think through the technology we can solve a lot of issues previously seemed very significant from the point of view for operational risks, for example, etc. And there is another side of the digital assets. If you will treat digital assets as a class of assets and apply to those class of assets the traditional risk management tools like diversification, exposures, limits, stop losses, everything is look the same, so nothing new if you are treating this as another class of investment or assets. That's it. So I don't think to anyone it will be a problem if you'll have in your portfolio, let's say like up to 5% of exposure to digital assets. So, and then all the tools of risk management, even on the individual or retail investors scale, can be applied, and that's it. So it's applicable, and it something that could be handled with care, but using traditional risk management tools. Thank you.
Kelly, can I add one
Sure.
quick thing? And I think going back to Juan's comments, I just want to mention that there is such a strong appetite here in the country and in the region. We do get a lot of excited issuers who get excited about the ethos of precisely that, the financial freedom and better access to investors, lower cost and improved efficiency. But I think a lot of that, from all the comments that we get from issuers and investors, there is a little bit of that question mark, a little bit of skepticism, because they haven't, it's a new innovative approach. There is no tried and, not sufficient, critical mass of tried and tested issuances. But I think that trust element will really scale that even here. And I think the project like this, especially with such credible, sophisticated name like Lazard, would really provide that quality badge, if you like, I think, and that added level of trust to investors, and even those who are on the fence, the institutional investors who are on the fence and looking at it with slight skepticism. I think it will provide that level of credibility. I also I have mentioned AFSA's role in this. I think having the FinTech lab, we particularly appreciate that a lot, because it allows us to be experimental with projects like this, and I think within regulatory norms and still conforming to all the global regulatory standards. So I think the FinTech lab has really enabled us to do that.
Hi, Jeffrey from Phillip Capital Singapore. I am making an assumption that the distribution is of the fund of fund structure or this product is still within the confine of AIFC. My question is not so much of the technological challenges, because we can solve all things through technology. My question maybe is more of the distribution of tokenized asset beyond borders, beyond regulatory regimes. So my question is more of maybe directed towards regulators. How are you all working towards a common alignment of standards in the governance of the fungibility and the transfer of distribution of tokenized asset across and beyond borders? Is there a work towards that in terms of regulators coming together to globalize, standardize, and to document the standard of transfer beyond borders?
Thank you for the question. First of all, when we are talking about the investment business, you must know that it's heavily regulated. We do have standard setting body, which is IOSCO. So there's a consensus and global standard setting body for the whole securities market regulators, including the issues of asset or fund management as well. So from that point of view, it's standardized. Of course, in the national legislation and regulation, you do have different approaches. For example, at the moment, we are discussing our approaches to the investment funds distribution, even here in the AIFC, even here in Kazakhstan in general. So it's not a common thing as it is in Europe when the main distributors are banks, for example. It's not the case here at the moment. So we have to start exploring the different approaches to that. As for the, it's not maybe a regulatory point of view, it's more like common sense. When you are talking about the flow of investments, it's a two-way road. Of course, at some point of time, for example, in Kazakhstan, the US equities are very popular, or European equities, as an investment tool. But by developing collaborations, by developing ecosystem, I think at some point of time, the opposite direction will be developed as well. So when the investments will be brought to the Kazakhstan, so it's a two-way road. So we as a regulator are building the infrastructure and possibilities for the financial innovations. So that's what we do. And I think it will have positive results later on.
Evening. What do you think about importance of localization of technical solutions of tokenization to IFC companies?
I'm not that technical. I'm more on the side of I used to be in the traditional finances. I used to be a traditional financial service regulator. But to my knowledge, it's limited knowledge, of course. First of all, we are talking about the personal data protection. So as long as we are in compliance with AIFC requirements towards data protection requirements, it's okay. At the moment, we do understand that there are some room or space for compromises. So where the exact equipment will be located, etc. But we are a principle-based regulator. So as long as our requirements are met, we can consider every option proposed by the industry. So it's not like we will reject all the requirements in this regard. So we are considering it from the point of view of principles. Are they met or not? So that's our approach. Thank you.